I remember the exact moment it hit me, like a punch I didn't see coming. It was a Friday night in Dallas, warm air drifting through the open windows of our apartment, the kind of night that makes you think life's about to turn into something good. I was standing in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, trying to cook her favorite pasta. Nothing fancy, just something that said, I care, I'm here, I'm trying. She walked out of the bedroom dressed like she was heading somewhere I wasn't invited to. Tight black dress, heels that clicked like a countdown, makeup done sharper than usual. She barely glanced at me. Going out? I asked, even though the answer was obvious. Yeah, just the girls, she said, grabbing her purse without stopping. I stood there holding a wooden spoon, feeling like an extra in someone else's life. You said we'd spend tonight together, I reminded her. She sighed, like I was the inconvenience. Don't start, okay? I need to have fun too. That word, too, stuck with me, as if what I was doing wasn't fun, as if building something together was some kind of burden. The door shut behind her, and the silence that followed felt heavier than anything she'd said. I sat down at the table we bought together just 3 months earlier. I remembered how excited we were picking it out. She talked about hosting dinners, inviting friends, maybe even having a kid someday running around that table. That night, it was just me. And 2 plates. That was the first crack. Not the last, but the one I couldn't unsee. The next morning, she walked in like nothing had happened. I was already awake, sitting on the couch with a cup of cold coffee, the TV playing some morning show I wasn't really watching. I heard her keys drop into the bowl by the door, the same bowl we picked out at a flea market in Austin during one of those weekends that used to mean something. She kicked off her heels and stretched like she'd just come back from a relaxing evening. Morning, she said casually. I looked at the clock. 9:47 a.m. morning? I repeated, you didn't come home. She shrugged, heading straight to the kitchen. We went to an after-party. I crashed at Jess's place. Jess. There was always a Jess. I watched her pour herself orange juice like we were just another normal couple starting a normal day. No tension, no explanation, no apology. I made dinner, I said quietly. She paused for half a second, then nodded. Yeah, I saw. Looked good. Looked good. Not I'm sorry. Not I wish I'd stayed. Just looked good. That's when I started noticing the pattern. It wasn't just one night. It became every weekend. Then Thursdays. Then random Tuesdays. Meanwhile, I kept trying to build something real. I picked up extra shifts at work, saving for a down payment on a small house. Nothing crazy, just something outside the city, maybe near Plano where things felt quieter, more stable. I even started looking at rings. Yeah, rings. I didn't tell anyone, not even my brother. It felt too fragile, like if I said it out loud, it might break. But every time I imagined proposing, the picture got blurry. Because in my version of the future, she was there, laughing in the kitchen, arguing over paint colors, maybe holding our kids someday. In reality, she was posting stories from clubs, lights flashing, strangers' arms around her shoulders, captions like, living my best life. I remember one night I saw a guy in one of her photos. Not just standing nearby, his hand was on her waist. I stared at that image longer than I want to admit. When she came home, I asked her about it. Who's that? She didn't even hesitate. Just a friend. A friend doesn't hold you like that. She rolled her eyes. Oh my God, you're being dramatic. Dramatic. That word again. Like my feelings were just noise she had to tolerate. I'm trying to build something with you, I said, my voice tighter than I wanted. And I didn't ask you to, she shot back. That one landed deep. Because suddenly everything made sense. I was building a home. She was just passing through. I wish I could say I left right then. That I had enough self-respect to walk away the moment she said she never asked me to build anything. But that's not how it went. I stayed. Not because I didn't understand what was happening, but because I kept hoping I was wrong. A week later, I decided to try one more time. Not with arguments. Not with questions. Just honesty. I told her to keep Friday night free. No pressure, no big speech. I just wanted one evening that felt like us again. She agreed. Surprisingly easy. That should have been my first warning. I went all in. Left work early, stopped by a small wine shop, got the same red we had on our first date. I even dug out the old playlist we used to play on long drives, back when we'd sing off-key and laugh like idiots somewhere between Dallas and nowhere. For a few hours, I let myself believe. The apartment looked different that night. Softer, warmer, like maybe it still had a chance. 7 o'clock came. Then 8. At 8:37, I texted her, "You close?" No reply. At 9:12, I called. Straight to voicemail. By 10, I wasn't sitting anymore. I was pacing. That tight feeling in my chest was back, only worse this time. Louder. At 10:46, my phone buzzed. Not a call. A notification. She had posted a story. I opened it before I could stop myself. Loud music. Flashing lights. A packed club. And there she was, laughing, head thrown back, holding a drink in one hand, and someone else's hand in the other. Not casual. Not friendly. Intimate. Permanent. In that one frozen second. I don't remember grabbing my keys, but I remember driving. Fast. Too fast. I knew the place. It was a club downtown she'd mentioned before. I told myself I just needed to see it with my own eyes. Like somehow that would make it clearer. Cleaner. It didn't. I found her near the bar. Same dress. Same laugh. Same guy. His hand was on her lower back this time. She didn't move it. I stood there for a second longer than I should have, watching a life I thought I was part of continue without me. Then she saw me, and instead of shock, there was irritation. "Are you serious right now?" she said, walking over. Not, "What are you doing here?" Not, "We need to talk." Just annoyance. "I asked you for one night," I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. She crossed her arms. "I told you. I'm not staying home every weekend like some married couple. That's not what I asked." "No," she snapped. "You asked for control." That word again, but this time it twisted something inside me. "Is that what this is?" I asked, gesturing toward the guy, the crowd, the whole scene. "Freedom?" She didn't even look back at him. "Yes." Just one word. Clean. Simple. Final. And right then, standing in the middle of that noise, something in me finally went quiet. Not peaceful. Empty. Because for the first time, I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't building a future with her. I was chasing someone who had already chosen a different life. I didn't argue with her that night. That's probably what surprised her the most. No raised voice. No scene. No desperate attempts to convince her that we could still salvage something. I just stood there, looking at her. And for the first time, I didn't see the girl I'd fallen in love with, but the person I'd been imagining all this. "I'm done," I said quietly. She blinked. "Done with what?" "With this," I answered, gesturing between us. "With pretending we want the same life." For a second, I thought maybe something would crack in her expression. Maybe regret. Maybe doubt. Nothing. She just shrugged again. That same shrug I'd seen 100 times. "Okay," she said. "If that's how you feel." Just like that. No fight for me. No attempts to stop it. As if I hadn't been someone worth holding on to for her for a long time now. I left the club alone. The drive back to the apartment in Dallas felt longer than any road trip we'd ever taken together. Every streetlight looked the same. Every turn felt automatic. When I walked in, the apartment didn't feel warm anymore. It felt temporary, like a place I'd been staying, not living. I grabbed a box from the closet and started packing that same night. At first, it was just the obvious things, my clothes, my work stuff, the few books I actually cared about. But then I started noticing everything else. The coffee mugs we picked out together. The blanket we used during movie nights that stopped happening. The photos on the fridge from that trip to Austin where we swore we were different. I stood there holding one of those photos longer than I should have. We looked happy. Not fake happy. Not posed. Real. That's the part that messes with you later. The fact that it was real, just not permanent. I didn't sleep that night. Around 3 a.m., I sat on the floor surrounded by half-packed boxes and realized something that hit harder than the breakup itself. I hadn't lost her that night. I'd been losing her slowly for months. Piece by piece. Every time she chose somewhere else. Someone else. Something else. And I stayed. That part was on me. The next morning, she came home. Same routine. Keys in the bowl. Shoes off. She looked around and finally noticed the boxes. "What's all this?" she asked. "I'm moving out," I said. She frowned slightly, like it was an inconvenience. "When?" "Today." That got her attention, but not in the way I expected. "You're not gonna, make this weird, right?" she said. "We can still be cool." "Be cool." I almost laughed. "Yeah," I said after a second. "Don't worry." But what I meant was something else entirely. I wasn't going to fight her. I wasn't going to beg. And I definitely wasn't going to stay. By the afternoon, my brother was helping me load the last box into the truck. I took one last look at the apartment. The table. The kitchen. The space where I thought a family would start. It didn't hurt the way I expected. It felt clear, like finally waking up after ignoring the alarm for too long. I closed the door without saying goodbye, because there was nothing left to say. Gay walls, cheap blinds, that faint smell of someone else's past still clinging to the carpet. But it was quiet. Too quiet. I set my boxes down in the living room and just stood there for a while, keys still in my hand. No music, no TV, no sound of her walking from room to room, getting ready to go somewhere I wasn't invited. Just me. I thought I'd feel relief, freedom, maybe even a little pride for finally walking away. Instead, I felt empty, not because I missed her the way I used to, but because everything I had been building, every plan, every late shift, every saved dollar, had nowhere to go now. You don't just lose a person. You lose the future you built around them. That night, I didn't unpack much. Just the essentials. A mattress on the floor, a phone charger, a lamp that flickered like it wasn't sure it wanted to stay either. I ordered takeout and ate it straight from the container, sitting on the floor. No table. No we. Just silence. And that's when it hit me in a different way. Not sharp like before, but slow and heavy. I had spent so much time trying to become the man for her that I didn't really know who I was without that goal. That realization sat with me longer than any argument we'd ever had. The next few days blurred together. Work, home, sleep. Repeat. No drama. No late-night texts. No checking her social media every 5 minutes like I used to. At first, I thought something was wrong with me. Why wasn't I breaking down? Why wasn't I calling her? But then I understood something simple and kind of brutal. I had already done all the hurting before I left. All those nights waiting, wondering, trying. That was the real heartbreak. Leaving was just the final step. One evening, about a week later, I finally started unpacking the rest of my stuff. I found the small box where I'd hidden the ring. Yeah, that ring. I sat there on the floor, turning it over in my hand. It still caught the light the same way. Still looked like something that belonged to a completely different life. For a second, I let myself imagine it again, getting down on one knee, her saying yes, building something real. But the image didn't hurt anymore. It just felt stranger, like remembering someone else's story. I closed the box and didn't open it again. Instead, I stood up, grabbed a trash bag, and started throwing out things I didn't need anymore. Not just her stuff. Old versions of myself. The guy who ignored red flags. The guy who kept explaining away disrespect. The guy who thought love meant staying no matter what. By the time I was done, the apartment still looked simple, but it felt different. Cleaner. Not perfect, but honest. And for the first time in a long while, I wasn't waiting for someone to come home. About a month after I moved out, I finally started sleeping through the night. Not perfectly, not peacefully every time, but better. The silence in my small apartment on the edge of Plano stopped being my enemy. It became something else, a space where I could finally hear my own thoughts without the noise of someone else's choices. I started building new habits. Morning coffee not on the go, but sitting by the window. Running after work instead of mindless scrolling. Calling my brother not because something went wrong, but just because. Life didn't become perfect, but it became mine. And right when everything started to fall into place, she texted me. Can we talk? I stared at that message for a long time. But this time, no panic. I didn't reply right away. About what? I finally wrote. She answered almost instantly. I messed up. I miss you. Let's meet. We met at a small cafe in Dallas. She looked different. Calmer. More real. But no longer mine. She said she wanted to try again. And I said no. Calmly. Because I had changed. And I was no longer willing to build a life with someone who once didn't even want to stay in it. I left. And this time, for good. A year later, I barely recognized the man I used to be. Not in a dramatic, movie-style way. No sudden glow-up. No overnight success. It was quieter than that. Real change usually is. I was still living near Plano, but I'd moved into a better place. Nothing flashy, just something that actually felt like home. There was a couch I chose myself. A solid wooden table. Yeah, I bought another one. Funny how that mattered to me again. But this time, it wasn't about us. It was just mine. My routine had changed too. Work was steady, but I stopped chasing money like it was going to fix something inside me. I started focusing on things I used to ignore, my health, my time, the people who actually showed up. My brother, a couple of old friends I'd lost touch with. And then, there was Emily. I met her at a small weekend market in Dallas. Not a club, not a loud party. Just one of those slow Saturdays where people walk around with coffee and nowhere urgent to be. She was arguing with a vendor about the price of homemade candles, half serious, half laughing. I noticed the laugh first. Not loud, not performative, just real. We started talking by accident, stayed talking on purpose. And the thing that caught me off guard wasn't that she was different. It was how easy everything felt. No guessing, no waiting for replies that never came. No feeling like I had to compete with a version of life that didn't include me. One evening, a few months later, we were sitting at my place, eating takeout at that same table. She looked around and smiled. "This feels like home," she said, and something in me paused. Not because I was afraid, but because I realized I didn't have to convince anyone of that anymore. I didn't rush anything with her. No big promises. No pressure to define the future right away. But the difference? She was there, present, choosing to be there. That's all I ever wanted. I just didn't know it back then. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that old apartment, the one in Dallas, the dinners that went cold, the version of me who kept waiting for someone to come back. I don't hate that guy. Honestly, I get him. He loved hard. He believed in building something real. He just picked the wrong person to build it with. And maybe that was necessary, because if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't recognize what real looks like now. It's not loud. It's not chaotic. It doesn't make you question your worth. Real feels like peace. Real feels like someone sitting across from you at a table, not planning their escape, not looking for something better, just staying. And this time, I'm not building a future alone.